Hello and welcome to Dragon Puppet. My name is Thomas and today I am bringing you my ultimate guide to San Diego Comic-Con. We'll start by taking a quick look at how it started and its evolution over the last 50 years, and then we'll talk about what happens at Comic-Con and how you can attend. Be sure to stick around to the end, as I've also made a rapid fire of my top survival tips for getting the most out of Comic-Con. It all began in 1970 when a small group of comic book enthusiasts, including Shel Dorf, Ken Kruger and Richard Alf, came together with a dream of creating a comic book convention in San Diego. They started with a one-day mini-con in March, which drew about 100 attendees. Encouraged by this success, they went ahead and organised the first full-scale San Diego Comic-Con, then known as the Golden State Comic-Con, in August of the same year. This first event was held right here at the US Grant Hotel in downtown San Diego and attracted around 300 attendees. From here, Comic-Con started to grow. In the early years, it was primarily focused on comic books and science fiction, but as the convention's popularity soared, so did its scope. By the mid-70s, it was already attracting big names in the industry and expanding its programming to include panels, exhibits, and film screenings. In the 1980s, the convention continued to expand, moving to larger venues to accommodate the growing number of attendees. The 1990s marked a significant turning point for Comic-Con. In 1991, it moved to the San Diego Convention Center, its current home. This gave it the space to grow even further, attracting major studios, publishers, and creators. In 1995, it adopted the now iconic I logo, designed by Richard Bruning, a logo which is still used today. The convention became a launching pad for new projects, exclusive previews, and major announcements. It was also during this time that Hollywood really started to take notice, and the event began to feature more and more film and TV content. Fast forward to today, San Diego Comic-Con has become a cultural phenomenon. It attracts over 130,000 attendees each year and has a massive global following. So first things first, how do you attend San Diego Comic-Con? Well, you'll need a badge. Since 2008, badge sales have been completely online and in advance. Badges usually go on sale to the public around November for the following year, so if you're hoping to get a badge, you have to start preparing early. The first step is to get a Comic-Con member ID. This puts you on the mailing list to be informed when badges go on sale and lets you use the online portal on the day of purchase. Once you've got a member ID, you will get an email about a week before tickets go on sale. This is called open registration, and the date varies a little year to year, so be sure to keep an eye on your emails. There's also a returning registration that is only open to people who attended the previous year, but I don't need to explain that because if you qualify for pre-reg, then you already know what you're doing. Anyway, the day tickets go on sale is always nerve-wracking. Badges sell out in about an hour, and there are more people trying to buy tickets than there are tickets available, so there is a good chance you won't get anything. The way the system works means it's basically a raffle. Let me explain. About a week prior to badges going on sale, anyone with an active member ID will be sent an email. At any point during the hour leading up to the moment that tickets go on sale, you can click the link in the email and you'll be put in a waiting room with everybody else. This is not a queue or a first-come, first-served situation. It's just a lobby. If you click the link 1 minute before tickets go on sale, you have the same odds as someone who clicked the link 45 minutes earlier. The moment the actual sale starts, everyone who is waiting in the lobby is randomly shuffled into the queue system. Although there's sometimes issues, like 2024 when the system crashed and had to be rescheduled, it's generally reliable and a pretty fair way of doing it, especially compared to some other ticket sales systems, as it means that everyone gets a fairly even chance at tickets. As you wait in line, you'll be told roughly how far you are from the front of the line, and the waiting screen will post updates informing you what days are running low and which ones have completely sold out. If you are lucky enough to get to the front of the queue while there are still tickets, then you'll have a limited amount of time, usually about 10 minutes, to lock in your purchases. Another good thing about this system is that you can buy tickets for up to 3 people, including yourself, as long as you know all the member IDs. This means people usually team up into groups of 3 for ticket sales and agree that whoever gets to the checkout first will arrange badges for the rest of the group. There are 5 days of San Diego Comic-Con, including the preview night on Wednesday evening. You can buy single badges for Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday in any combination, but in order to get a badge for preview night, you need to buy all 5 days together. Saturday will sell out first, then Friday, then Thursday, and Sunday is always the last day to sell out. Once you've paid for your badges, you will get an email confirmation, but don't stress if it takes a few hours or even a few days. The system is handling tens of thousands of sales, and it sometimes takes a while to process. If you're worried, make sure to grab a screenshot of your receipt and confirmation before clicking off the website. If you don't get a badge, you can go on a waiting list, as there will be a handful of people who end up refunding their badges, but I wouldn't hold out too much hope here. I've not heard of anyone getting badges this way, so it must be a pretty rare occurrence. Sadly, if you don't get a badge on registration day, it's pretty unlikely that you'll be able to go to San Diego Comic-Con as an attendee, but there is always next year. If you're traveling to Comic-Con and you don't have a sofa to crash on, you'll probably want to book somewhere to stay. Obviously, you can book a hotel or Airbnb directly, but Comic-Con is so big that all the hotels around the convention center in a wide radius will be extremely busy, and most will have significantly increased their prices during the dates of the convention. Fortunately, there is a shred of hope, as there are 3 waves of hotel bookings that are organized by San Diego Comic-Con: Early Bird, Downtown, also known as the Hotel Lottery, and General Housing. Over 50 hotels are included in these sales. The main appeal of going through these sales is the prices are locked in at a far more reasonable rate than the inflated prices you would find if you book directly with the hotel. All the hotels in these sales are either walking distance from the convention center, or they will be accessible using free shuttle buses that run during the days of the convention. Early Bird is a first come first served sale for hotels in the Mission Valley and airport areas, and usually takes place between November and January. The Downtown Hotel Sale is a raffle-based system like the badge sales. This includes the most sought-after hotels in the downtown area and usually happens around April. Like with badges, you'll be sent an email with a date, time, and link. You'll get this email about a week before the sale, but the link doesn't work until the correct time. During the 2024 sale, you could book up to 2 rooms, so you can book for your friends. There are lots of theories about which hotels have the best odds, but generally it's best to be honest and just request the hotel that you want the most. Remember, if you are booking with a group, you can all request the same hotel to increase your chances. And then if you're lucky enough to receive multiple offers, you can decline reservations you don't need and you won't be charged. Obviously, the hotel lottery is a great deal if you can get a room, but as with badges, there's a good chance you won't get anything. The final wave of hotel sales organised by Comic-Con is General Housing. This is basically a first come first served system for any last minute rooms that become available due to changes or cancellations. As a result, General Housing includes hotels from both regions, but availability is very limited. Next, we need to get our hands on the physical badge. There's 2 ways to do this: badge shipping or collection in person. If you live in the US or you know someone in the US who you'll be seeing before Comic-Con, you can have your badge shipped. The badge will be shipped a few weeks before Comic-Con. To do this, you need to make sure that your preferred shipping address is registered on your member ID portal. The advantage of this is getting your hands on your badge nice and early, without having to line up. Between 2017 and 2019, getting your badge shipped also came with the added bonus of receiving it in a premium badge box. Since COVID, badges are just shipped in plain envelopes, but you never know, they may introduce the premium boxes again in the future. The other option is to collect your badge in person. This involves going to the sales pavilion either the day before the convention or during one of the days of the con. The sales pavilion is the massive area upstairs in the middle of the convention center. You usually get here by entering around lobby C, but sometimes they move it or there are very long lines that snake down to other entrances. The best thing to do is to ask one of the volunteers outside the convention center. Once you get inside, you will be funneled upstairs to badge collection. You will need to bring your ID and email confirmation, either on your phone or printed out. Bringing ID may sound like a hassle, but it reduces the number of scalpers selling overpriced tickets online. Even if you got your badge shipped, you may want to head to badge collection at some point during the convention, probably when the line is a bit smaller, as this is also one of the places you can get your complimentary bag, events guide, and lanyard, although they have started distributing bags and lanyards in other areas for people who got their badges shipped, so check the website for specific details on the best place to collect your bag. If you collect your badge here, you will get this stuff at the same time. These bags vary a little year to year, but are generally pretty big with backpack straps. I actually made a video where I sewed together 10 years worth of bags into one ultimate bag, so check that out if you want to see more Comic-Con bag action. In the past, Comic-Con also gave out a collectible book magazine thing each year, but this was made into a digital product a few years ago. There have also been some years where they included exclusive enamel pin badges in the bag, but this doesn't always happen. Right, so you've got a badge and somewhere to stay. Now it's time to pack for Comic-Con. I'll go through what I think are the essentials and then some optional extras that I've also found useful over the years. Obviously, your badge is the single most important thing to bring. You can get your badge replaced if you lose it, but it will cost you money and you will need your ID. Next is your phone, a charging cable, and ideally your own portable battery. There are a few spots in the lobby with sockets that people use to charge their devices, but they're always highly sought after and it just uses up your valuable convention time. Next is some way to pay for things. I have Apple Pay on my phone, but I also bring my debit card and some cash just as a backup. As I mentioned, you do get an official Comic-Con bag, but I recommend bringing your own separate bag for your valuables and food. Something comfortable and not too bulky. A slim backpack, a shoulder bag, or a bum bag are all perfect. I also like to stuff a couple of tote bags in there, just in case I buy too much stuff and I need extra. On the theme of storage, you will probably want a poster tube for any free posters you get, or a plastic top loader for art and prints. There will be booths that sell these items at the con, and the 20th Century Fox booth actually gives away free poster tubes at random drops throughout the day, but if you bring your own with you, it just saves you a bit of time. Food is also something I would highly recommend bringing with you, again to save money and time. The food stalls in the exhibit hall are very overpriced and there is always a line. It's much better to pack your own snacks or lunch if you have the space in your bag. Drink is also very important. It's essential to stay hydrated at events like this, especially in a warm city like San Diego. Obviously you can buy drinks at the convention, but bringing your own water bottle means you can spend more money and time enjoying the convention. There are also lots of water fountains around that you can refill your bottle at. The last essential item I would recommend is comfortable footwear. The San Diego Convention Center is massive and you'll be amazed how much walking you do over the course of the day, inside and outside the con. Moving on, let's look at the less essential but still highly recommended things to bring. First is a bunch of things that could be grouped as toiletries or personal care. Things like sunblock are very important, especially if you end up in a long queue outside in the hot San Diego sun. Hand sanitizer is good too, as germs can get around pretty fast at a convention. Face masks can also be useful if you are keen to avoid getting the con flu. Thousands of people come from all over the world to Comic-Con and germs do get passed around. I'd also recommend some deodorant. Travel size is perfect, just in case you need to top up at any point during the day. It's easy to work up a sweat with heat, crowds and lots of walking, so be kind to your fellow attendees and reduce the con funk. Now, the next item may seem like over-preparing, but I think it's a good idea to bring a small first aid kit, or at least some plasters and some painkillers. A bad headache or a messy paper cut from a poster can quickly ruin your day if it's not handled fast. There are of course lots of first aiders around, but no harm in bringing a few key medical supplies for yourself. Some other optional items are pens and a small notebook. Sharpies are good for getting signatures if you bump into a celebrity or an artist that you really like, and a notepad can be helpful for making plans or sharing contact information. In fact, bringing a pre-made plan to remind you of all the things you want to do, like booth numbers, panel times, and exclusive items that you want, can be a good way to make sure you can make the most of your time. There's also a couple of bulkier items that are good to bring if you have the space, like sometimes you'll be sitting in a long panel in an air-conditioned room, and you'll be very glad you packed a hoodie, jacket, or a small blanket to keep you warm. On the flip side, there will be times when it gets a bit hot, so it's good to pack a fan to cool off. I also often see people in long lines who pack small foldable or collapsible stools. I'm happy to sit on the floor, but if you want to save your butt or knees, pack a little seat. The next section is about getting to the convention center. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to get to San Diego, but once you're in the city, there are a few ways that you can get to Comic-Con. Driving, rideshares or taxis, and the trolley network. If you're driving to the convention, you'll need somewhere to park. Now, the main road going past the convention center, Harbor Drive, is completely blocked off during the convention, and the area of downtown nearby is cordoned off for pedestrians. For parking closest to the convention center, there is once again a lottery system in place. Ace Parking organises this lottery, and it encompasses most of the car parks within walking distance of the convention center. To enter into the lottery, you usually need to register before the end of May, and then the lottery is drawn in June. Any spaces not sold during this lottery go on a first come first served release and are snapped up pretty fast. Once you're parked, if you leave your space at any time, it will be made available for someone else. You can show up on the day to these car parks without a reservation and hope that someone who pre-booked didn't need their space, but you could be waiting for hours. The other option if you want to drive in is to park further away in downtown and pay for street parking, but the closer you get to the convention, the less likely you are to find a space. But it's an option if you don't mind a 30-minute walk. One of the other main ways people get to Comic-Con is using rideshare services like Lyft, Uber and Ride, as well as good old-fashioned taxis. Around Comic-Con time, there will be lots of people using ride shares, so things like Uber Pool, where you can get a cheaper deal by sharing a ride with a stranger, will be easy to arrange. It's also worth re-mentioning that any hotels that are part of the official hotel sale will have free Comic-Con shuttle buses running to and from the convention center. Timetables for these can be found online. The last way to get to Comic-Con that I'll talk about, and the method that I use the most often, is the San Diego Trolley. This is the name for the light rail network or tram network in San Diego. There are a couple of stops on the Green Line that are really close. The Convention Center station will drop you off closest to Hall A, and the Gaslamp Quarter station drops you off near Hall E. The trolleys are run by MTS, and it's basically a $2.50 flat fee for any one-way trip. You pay by tapping in at the station before you get on for each trip, and your fare will be deducted. You can tap in using a Pronto card, preloaded with funds, or you can tap using a contactless credit or debit card or a smart device. During the days of Comic-Con, there are offers available for multi-day passes, which give you unlimited journeys for those specific days at a discounted price. These passes have to be loaded onto a Pronto card, and again, you just tap the card whenever you board a trolley to validate your journey. These passes used to be physical special edition tickets that you could keep on your lanyard with your badge. These days, if you want a souvenir to remember your trolley trip to Comic-Con, MTS do produce a limited number of Comic-Con themed Pronto cards that you can order online or try and get in person at the station. So you've got a badge, a hotel, your backpack is full, and you've navigated your way to the convention. Okay, we're about halfway through the video and we can finally start talking about what to actually expect when you arrive at Comic-Con. Your badge is obviously needed to enter the convention center, but they also check your badge when you enter this area in front of the convention center as a way to reduce crowding. If you haven't collected your badge yet, they might ask for your confirmation email, but sometimes they are chill and will just take your word for it. If you want to enter Comic-Con as soon as it opens, you will have to arrive a few hours early and join the line. This line usually starts upstairs above Hall H or G. The line gets very long, and it seems like each year people start lining up even earlier, so I can't tell you the best time to join. But generally, if you arrive a couple of hours before the doors are due to open and just keep asking people, you will be directed to the right place and will get in before most people. Once the convention begins, doors the whole length of the hall from A to G will be open, including a couple of doors at the back. But they don't open all the doors until everyone who lined up in advance has been let into the convention center. So if you show up bang on time, you will end up waiting a little and crowds will form at each of the doors, which can be confusing because it just seems like they're refusing to open the doors on time, but actually they're just making sure that people who arrived early don't end up being let in after the main crowd. I usually arrive at Comic-Con about an hour after it starts because by that point there are no lines to get in and the crowds around the doors have dispersed. Obviously, if you are very keen to get in as soon as possible to buy one of the first come, first served exclusives, you'll probably need to line up early to make sure you get it. I'll talk more about exclusives later in the video. Whenever you enter or exit the building, you will be directed by staff and volunteers to scan your badge. If you don't scan on the way out and then you try to re-enter, the system will ping up an error as it still thinks your badge is inside the convention center. This is to stop people scanning it and then passing it back to get multiple people in on the same badge. So always remember to scan out, but don't worry too much if you forget. You'll just need to explain what happened and they might ask to see your confirmation email. If this sounds complicated or scary, I promise you it's not that bad. The staff are pretty understanding and will help you if you need. So now you're in the building, your badge will be checked again when you enter the actual exhibit hall. There are no scanners here, just staff who will check your badge looks legit and that it's for the right day. As you can see, the convention center is massive and spread over several floors. Generally, I would group the main areas as the exhibit hall, where all the booths are, the lobby area, just outside the exhibit hall, the upper level, where you'll find the sales pavilion and most of the panels, and the mezzanine, where you'll find the fan tables and gaming rooms. Starting with the main exhibit hall, it spans from halls A to G and is about half a kilometre long. Hall H is sectioned off and used for the biggest panels and screenings. Booths are roughly grouped in the same way each year, but move around a bit within those groupings. Let's look at the map for 2024. Up at the entrance G is always Artists Alley, where dozens of artists have small booths selling their art and doing commission work. These artists range from famous comic book artists to independent illustrators. The back of this section is consumed by Funko and all the stuff they sell like Pop Vinyl and Loungefly. Funko often have really big colourful booths that are themed like a mini village. It can get pretty busy here because they sell some of the most popular exclusives, but because of how they manage their exclusive sales, the lines don't get too crazy. Moving along, there will be loads of independent retailers selling all kinds of things. If you've been attending a while, you might start to recognise the same booths in roughly the same areas each year. You'll also find food vendors along the back of the exhibit hall at certain points. They usually sell pizza, pretzels and drinks, but it's very expensive. As we start to get closer to the middle, you'll usually start to find film studios, television networks and streaming platforms. Right in the middle, you can see the largest companies gather with the biggest booths. These are pretty much the same big names each year. LEGO are normally showing off upcoming sets, selling sets and doing some kind of interactive build, and the booths like Marvel and Star Wars will be selling lots of licensed merch and will also often have displays with costumes and props for their films and big screens with trailers looping on them. This section is also where you are likely to find the most free posters and some of the best swag. As you can imagine, this section gets very busy and clogged up with people. There are staff and volunteers who will be trying to manage the crowds, and if they see people standing still in the main thoroughfares, they will likely try and move them on. So if you need to get something out of your bag, either move to a less busy area or step into one of the booths where you won't block traffic. As we get towards the other end of the hall, you will see this section labelled the IP Pavilion. This is basically mid-level publishers sharing comics, films, books or toys. Publishers in the IP Pavilion aren't as big as the massive studios, but are too big to be considered independent. The independent publishers are over at the Small Press Pavilion. These are people who are making their own comics or magazines completely independently. These people are always very friendly and keen to talk about what they do, and often have some of the most affordable art or comics, if you're willing to try something new. As we keep going, you'll notice the Gold and Silver Pavilion. These are people who sell vintage comics from the Gold and Silver Age of comics. Walking through this section is probably the closest you'll get to how Comic-Con might have felt 20 or 30 years ago. This is also where you'll be able to ogle at some of the most famous and expensive comics in the world, sealed behind glass cabinets of course. The exhibitor tables section doesn't feature booths that are especially different from other sections, but the main thing is they are the smallest booths. So you'll often find smaller or more niche retailers here. At the far end, by entrance A, is roughly where you'll find all the video game booths. They are usually showing off new stuff with demos that you can line up to play, and often sell lots of merch for their games. Just outside the exhibit hall is the lobby area that spans the length of the building. This is the main way in and out of Comic-Con. It's also where you'll find the cloakroom, lost and found, guest services, first aiders, Starbucks, and even a post office that will pack and ship stuff home for you, whether that's in the US or anywhere around the world, to stop you having to lug it around the convention. On the opposite side of the exhibit hall and up a flight of stairs is the mezzanine area. This is a very small area with fan tables right in the middle. These are basically groups or societies of fans who are showing off what they do and trying to get more people involved in their communities. LARPing groups, cosplay groups and fan communities are all here. If you step through these doors onto the outside mezzanine area, you'll often find lots of cosplayers doing meetups and taking photos. There's also sometimes living history or LARPing groups doing battles in armor here. Back inside, you'll see there's a bunch of rooms here too. These are full of free-to-join demos of board games and card games. This is a great way to rest your legs while also making new friends and learning how to play board games from the people who made them. You can also play the official Pokemon trading card game here by either bringing your own legal deck or using one of the decks provided. There's also a room for playing Dungeons & Dragons through the official Adventurers League, often DM'd by professionals or sometimes Wizards of the Coast staff. I didn't know about the mezzanine section the first couple of years I went to Comic-Con, but it's one of my favourite sections these days, and where you get to have lots of fun without spending loads of money. The final main section of the convention centre that we'll talk about is the upper level. We already mentioned the sales pavilion. This is a big open space in the middle of the building where you can collect your badges and bags. It's also where the celebrity autographs happen, where you can sign up to the blood drive, as well as the portfolio review section for people who want to have their art reviewed by professionals in the hope of getting signed to a big comic book company. This is obviously a very niche part of Comic-Con, but for some people it's the main reason they go. Beyond the sales pavilion, the upper level is basically loads of rooms of various sizes that host loads of panels over the 5 days. This leads us perfectly onto the next part of the video, all about the panels at Comic-Con. If you've not been to Comic-Con before, you're probably still aware of the massive panels that take place at Comic-Con, like the Marvel panel or the Star Wars panel, which have audiences as big as 6,000 people. But Comic-Con also hosts hundreds of other panels, with some rooms only having about 100 seats. I'll start by talking about how to get into the massive panels, and then the benefits of checking out some of the smaller panels. The biggest panel venue is Hall H. In fact, it's not technically a panel room at all, it's a whole section of the exhibit hall downstairs that is sectioned off from the rest of Comic-Con. It's here that some of the most famous and viral Comic-Con moments have happened over the years. But if you want to get into these panels, you will have to line up for hours and hours. And in the past, some panels have needed people to be lining up for multiple days to secure seating. Comic-Con does have a system to manage the line for Hall H, but they can only manage it to a point, beyond which people will manage it themselves. So, To guarantee a seat in Hall H, you will first need a seating wristband, sometimes known as a token tracker, which you get the evening before the day you want. So if you want to be in Hall H for the Friday panels, you will need to get a wristband on Thursday evening. These wristbands will guarantee you a seat somewhere in Hall H as long as you arrive before 7:30 AM the morning of the panel. There will be tape, fences and marquees to manage the first few hundred people in line. The time that these wristbands are distributed varies, but they generally start an hour or two after the exhibit hall closes, and they are all gone in a few hours. The idea of these is that once you get your wristband, you can go home, eat, sleep, and come back early the next day to reduce the number of people who sleep in line overnight. The reason some people still sleep over is to secure good seats in Hall H. Although your wristband guarantees you a seat, as long as you arrive by 7:30, the first people let into Hall H will be the first people in line with a wristband from the night before. Now, of course, the lines for the wristbands can go on for hours and sometimes days. For Saturday panels, which are always the most popular, some people will start a line on Thursday, sleep over Thursday night so that on Friday evening they are first in line to get a wristband for Saturday, and then they will stay in line overnight on Friday so they're the first in line to be let in on Saturday morning to get the good seats. This is where intuition and word of mouth planning comes into play. Nobody knows how early you need to be in line to guarantee getting a wristband. Lines for Thursday and Sunday panels will be much shorter than Friday and Saturday. It of course depends on how popular the panels are and how early other people decide to start lining up. Inevitably, the lines start a little earlier every year because people remember when they started lining up last year and think, I should get in line earlier this year just to be safe. This means again, I can't tell you when the best time to get in line is. Annoyingly, if you want to get a wristband for one of the big Hall H panels, you'll have to show up days before and see what lines have started forming and ask people what they're lining up for. You then probably need to keep coming back to that area over the next few hours or days to see how fast the line is growing, and at some point, you'll just have to decide to join the line and lock in. So getting into the big panels is a huge time sink. I've done it before, but I don't bother these days. Although it's a lot of fun to be in the room when Marvel announce the big new projects or Star Wars show off a brand new trailer, for me personally, it's no longer worth that many hours of my day when there are so many other things to do at Comic-Con. If you're up for the adventure of the outdoor Comic-Con sleepover, I fully support you. In fact, the first year I went to Comic-Con in 2012, I made friends with the people beside me in the Hall H line, and over the years I've stayed with them, met their families, and even gone on holiday with them. But on the flip side, if the idea of spending a whole day of your trip baking in the sun doing nothing sounds too boring, I want to reassure you that you shouldn't feel like you have to do Hall H. You can make friends anywhere at Comic-Con, and there are hundreds of other panels that take place. Some of them you need to line up for a couple of hours, but some of them you can just walk right in. These cover all kinds of things, so before you attend, be sure to read the panel programming and make a list of panels you'd like to check out. Maybe I'm getting old, but some of the most memorable panels I've attended have been the smaller ones with empty seats at the back. As with Hall H, you probably still need to talk to some volunteers or fellow attendees a few hours in advance to get an idea of how popular a panel is expected to be and judge when you think it's best to get in line. Alright, the next big thing that is important for lots of people at Comic-Con is the exclusives. Lots of the vendors in the exhibit hall will be selling limited edition stuff, and some of it is very popular and disappears very quickly. The big three when it comes to exclusives are Hasbro, Mattel, and Funko. But dozens of other companies will also completely sell out of all of their exclusives before the end of the show. You probably won't be surprised to learn that Comic-Con organizes a lottery system to fairly distribute the most sought after exclusives. A few weeks before Comic-Con, you will get an email with details about the exclusives portal. This is a website where you can tick all of the exclusives that you want to be in with a chance of buying. The form is not first come first served, so just make sure you fill it out before the lottery is drawn. You will then get an email from Comic-Con saying which exclusives you have got a ticket for, but remember, there is a chance you won't get the ones you want. This email will also tell you when and where to go during Comic-Con to buy your exclusive. Different vendors have slightly different systems, and there is a slim chance they will still sell out even if you have a ticket for an exclusive. For example, if Funko are selling 10 exclusives and you get a ticket for a Funko exclusive, there is a chance that everyone with a ticket wants the same Funko, so when you go to buy your exclusive, the one you wanted is gone and you have to choose from one of the other 9 exclusives. There are also a bunch of vendors that do not use the Comic-Con raffle system and will simply sell their exclusives on a first come first served basis. Last year, the Snoopy booth had a bunch of exclusives that were sold first come first served, and if you wanted one, you just had to make sure you got into the exhibit hall as early as possible. These vendors usually assign a certain amount of stock for each day, so that somebody with a Saturday badge has the same chance as somebody with a Thursday badge. Again, planning is key here. Be sure to follow the Unofficial Comic-Con blog and socials to see what exclusives are going to be available, and if there is a specific brand or vendor that you love, make sure you know if they're doing any exclusives, and if so, how they are managing the distribution of them. Any lines that get over a certain length in the exhibit hall will have one or more volunteers assigned to manage it, and they usually hold up signs so you can see where the end of the line is and when the line has been capped. For example, the only exclusives that I really care about are the Con Ranger badges. I should talk about these quite a lot in my Comic-Con bag video. They post details on their socials in the run-up to Comic-Con explaining how they are selling their exclusives, so I always make sure to check before attending. It's also worth pointing out that sometimes the vendors that require an exclusive lottery ticket won't actually sell all their stuff, and towards the end of the show, they'll open it up to first come, first served. So if you really wanted a specific Funko exclusive and didn't get a ticket, keep popping back to the booth to gauge how well it's selling and ask the staff if it's likely to sell out. They may tell you to come back at a certain time for general sales. Okay, something else that is important for a lot of people is celebrity autographs and meetups. There are two main ways this happens. Autographs organised directly by Comic-Con in the designated autograph section in the sales pavilion, and autographs organised by specific vendors at their booths. Firstly, let's talk about the Comic-Con autograph area. Most of the autographs here are, once again, raffled off in an online lottery. You apply for these at the same time that you do your exclusives. Just opt in to whichever autographs you're interested in and hope you get lucky. If you do, you will get a ticket, time, and a place to show up, and assuming you arrive on time, you are guaranteed an autograph. Unlike many other conventions, all the officially organised autographs are free, as the celebs are paid a fee by Comic-Con and not by the individual attendees. This is kind of amazing if you're used to events like MCM in London, where some of the celebrities charge a fortune for an autograph or photo op because the event is not paying them to be there. Talking of photo ops, these aren't guaranteed. Some people are happy to pose for a quick photo when they do the autograph, but some will just want to do the signing. There are some autographs that take place in the autograph area that aren't raffled off and are just first come, first served. In these cases, as before, it's best to show up extra early to see if and when a line starts to form. The other autographs that happen at Comic-Con take place in the exhibit hall at specific booths. Some vendors will book celebrities, authors, or artists to sit at their booth for a specific time to sign stuff, pose for photos, and meet fans. These can be raffled off in the exclusives portal, but are often first come, first served, and sometimes they will even organise their own online raffles. For the first come, first served signings, there will be long lines that snake along the edge of the exhibit hall. If you see someone doing a signing at a booth, ask the staff what the system is and they will usually direct you to a line or tell you that the line is already capped. As with exclusives, these lines are managed by volunteers in easily recognisable vests holding up signs. Alright, the final thing I want to talk about before we get into my top tips is the off-site stuff. San Diego Comic-Con is huge and it spreads out beyond the convention center into the nearby hotels, parks, museums, shops, restaurants, and even nightclubs. Lots of these off-site events are officially run by Comic-Con, like the ones that take place in the big hotels nearby, but many of the off-sites are set up independent of Comic-Con in shops and other venues. Directly behind the convention center, there is a large bay area and a few green spaces that almost always have lots of stuff happening in them, often involving inflatables. These are usually open to the public, so the lines can get very long, as people who missed out on getting a badge will spend the whole day doing these off-site events. There are also a few interesting boats and the IMD boat moored up in the bay which you can visit. The Marriott Marquis Hotel hosts the most indoor off-site events and is organised by Comic-Con. Here you'll find things like the gaming lounges where you can relax and play video games, board games and card games. There's also the Pinball Arcade, which is packed with free-to-use pinball machines of all shapes and sizes. There is also the Comic-Con merch shop, which has loads of different merch to buy, including some stuff from previous years. In the past, there was very little to choose from, and it was really poorly organised, but starting in 2023, they completely revamped it and added loads of products and made loads of stuff available online to reduce demand on the day. The Marriott also hosts film screenings throughout the days of the convention, as well as a variety of fan meetups and smaller programs. A little further away is the Manchester Grand Hyatt, which usually hosts some kind of pop culture art show, as well as the Comic-Con Blood Drive. On Thursday evening, the Manchester also hosts the Her Universe fashion show, which is an increasingly popular geek-themed fashion show featuring loads of amateur designers competing for a chance to design a range of clothing for Her Universe. It's hosted by Ashley Eckstein, who runs Her Universe and is known for voicing Ahsoka Tano. You don't actually need a Comic-Con badge to attend the fashion show, so it's always very popular. To get a seat, you'll probably have to line up for at least 2 or 3 hours beforehand, and it gets more popular every year. If you do have the time to line up and you enjoy loud music and fashion, it's a great event to do on Thursday evening to hype you up for the rest of the con. Those are the main officially organised off-site events. It varies a little year to year, so once again, be sure to keep checking the blog and events guide so you know what to look out for. The biggest collection of off-sites that aren't officially organised by Comic-Con can be found in the Petco Park Interactive Zone, which occupies a large car park near the convention centre. This is a free-to-enter pop-up fair that you don't need a badge to do. It's filled with a mix of interactive experiences put on by the big brands, as well as a bunch of food trucks. You used to be able to walk right in, but it's been more popular every year, and since COVID there has always been a line to get in. Because you don't need a badge, it's become quite popular with local residents who want a mini Comic-Con experience with their families. As for the other off-sites that aren't overseen by Comic-Con, they are scattered throughout downtown San Diego, and it's impossible to predict what they will be year to year. In the weeks building up to Comic-Con, keep an eye on websites like the San Diego Comic-Con Unofficial blog, who always compile a list of all the off-sites that have been announced. Some of my favourite off-sites over the years included a Doctor Who fan meetup organised by BBC America in a nightclub, a Star Trek themed exhibition, a pop-up fantasy tavern promoting the Dungeons & Dragons movie, an art exhibition featuring brick art from Nathan Sawaya, an Assassin's Creed Leap of Faith, and even a panel with Stan Lee hosted by Nerd HQ, which I got to attend in 2012. Most of the off-sites that aren't organised by Comic-Con are open to the public, which means the lines can be hours and hours long, and people do often camp out for the most popular ones. Okay, so we made it to the last part of the video. These are a bunch of tips that I have picked up over many years of attending Comic-Con. Starting us off, don't be afraid to start chatting with strangers. This could be other attendees or vendors. Pretty much everyone at Comic-Con is happy and excited to be there. This means most people are in a very good mood and will gladly chat to anyone about pretty much anything. I've made so many good friends at Comic-Con. Next, make at least a rough plan. There is so much going on, and even if you're attending for all 5 days, you will not have time to do everything. The fact you're watching this video means you're probably the kind of person who likes to do their research, but also remember to check the official and unofficial blogs and make a plan for what you want to do, buy, and see every day. The next tip is about celebrities. There is a good chance you will see celebrities or influencers at Comic-Con that you're a fan of. Whether you want to ask for a selfie, shake their hand, or just say hello, mentally prepare yourself. Some people just freeze up and then they regret not saying anything. These people will be expecting fan interactions and are always happy to hear kind words of appreciation. The next tip is to keep an eye out for swag. This is the word for all the free stuff that some booths will be giving out. It's usually posters, stickers, or badges, but I've also got free t-shirts, books, tote bags, and hats. Some booths will ask to scan your badge in exchange for some swag. This is just a quick way for them to get your email address so they can send you promotional material. Sometimes there'll even be wheel spins with bigger prizes like premium books or collectibles. The next tip is to not be shy around cosplayers. If you see a really cool cosplay, don't be afraid to ask them for a photo or just tell them that they look great. Cosplayers work for weeks or even months on their cosplays and they want people to enjoy them. And if you ask for a photo, they will often have some prepared poses for you that will look great on camera. Okay, the next one might sound a bit weird if you've not been to Comic-Con before, but don't engage with the street preachers. There are always people outside Comic-Con who see this massive crowd as an opportunity to preach their religious or political beliefs. They can be very annoying, especially when they're being deliberately controversial or antagonistic, and you might be tempted to engage with them, but it's just what they want. Don't waste your precious time at Comic-Con trying to talk sense into people who absolutely won't be changing their minds. The next tip is just don't forget to take a break. Comic-Con can be exhausting and overwhelming at times. There are lots of spots you can have a sit down, but my favourite place to have a quick rest or grab a snack is outside on the Mezzanine. It's quiet and shaded with lots of fresh air. Okay, so you might have to hover or circle at a booth before a line opens up for a limited time signing or an exclusive sale, and to keep crowds to a minimum, the staff will sometimes refuse to start a line until the last minute and will actively disperse people who stand too near to their booth. This usually leads to attendees circling a booth, so they're technically still moving, or hovering a few meters away in a less crowded spot. When the staff decide to open the line, it then immediately gets capped because 30 hoverers suddenly activate. So my tip is, if you're in this situation, make friends with other attendees who look like they're hovering. They might have good intel on when the line is due to start, or sometimes you can agree with them that whoever gets in line first will hold a space for the other person. This leads on to my next tip, which is very simple: be prepared to spend a lot of time waiting for things. Outside of exclusives, signings and panels, lots of the booth will have interactive things to do, and the lines for these can get pretty long too. Of course, you don't want to spend your whole convention in lines, but if you skip anything that has a queue, you'll miss out on a bunch of memorable moments. Okay, now for a tip regarding food. If you run out of snacks or forget to pack your lunch, you still don't have to buy the convention food. The two places I usually go for extra supplies are the Ralph's on G Street and the Subway on K Street. They hire loads of extra staff around Comic-Con, so you will get served really fast, and although the food may still be pricey, it's much better value than the food in the exhibit hall. My last tip isn't actually about Comic-Con, it's about San Diego. If you are visiting from another country, or even from somewhere else in the US, I highly recommend sticking around in San Diego for at least a day or two after Comic-Con. There are so many amazing places to see and visit, and you'd miss out if you only saw the convention center and the airport. San Diego Zoo, the USS Midway Museum, Old Town, Sunset Cliffs, La Jolla, and you can also spend a whole day visiting museums in Balboa Park. So that's my ultimate guide to San Diego Comic-Con based on years of experience. There are still loads of things I haven't been able to go into detail about, so let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or if you've been to Comic-Con before, let me know what your top tips are. If you found this video useful, then drop me a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos covering topics like conventions, cosplay, and tabletop games like Warhammer or Dungeons & Dragons. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.